What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks again for joining me. Today you can see we're back with the Duramax. Hopefully a little maintenance video that'll help you guys out a little bit. This thing's got a terrible squeak, chirp, whatever you want to call it, coming from the serpentine system. Driving me absolutely nuts. I've been putting it off for a while. Bear with me today, guys. I'm sick. I'm home fighting a cold from work, but this has got to get done because it's just killing me. I can hear it from inside the cab. It doesn't seem to matter if the engine's warm, cold. Makes no difference. Plus, I bought this vehicle used, 10 years old. We're at 113,000 miles now. I don't know what the maintenance history is on this thing. Maybe it's never been changed. Maybe it's something as cheap or as simple as a cheap belt put on there. I don't know. Maybe just changing the brands would have figured it out and fixed the problem. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to swap out the serpentine belt today. We're going to do the tensioner. We're going to do the idler pulleys. That way I know everything that's in there is fresh. So thanks for joining me, you guys. I know it can be a little intimidating when you look in there, see how everything's shoehorned in there, but we're going to work our way through it, and hopefully this video will help you guys out. So here it is. Hopefully the audio is picking up well on this for you guys. You can hear it. Like I said, just kind of a squeak or a chirp. Either way, it's annoying as all get out to me and my OCD. So anyway, we're going to see if we can take care of it. If that doesn't fix it, obviously we got something else going on. So either way, it's good content for the channel. Like I said, hopefully some of you guys will find it helpful. Alright guys, so here we are looking down on it, and you see that the belt's actually in decent looking shape. I don't really see anything wrong with it, but irregardless, it's coming out. You can see we've got our tensioner right down here. Get a good angle on it. Like I say, you can see we got all this fan shrouding, all this stuff that's going to be in our way, scraping our hands up. We're going to have to fight that the whole way. We've got a tensioner here, and hopefully you guys can see. You've got one more tensioner right down here, so you got two of them. Not tensioners, idler pulleys, excuse me. Like I said, I'm on cold meds. I'm a little foggy-headed today, guys. Sorry about that. So anyway, I would also strongly recommend, if you don't have a little diagram of your serpentine belt, which I don't see on this truck anywhere, take the time to grab a pen and a pad of paper and doodle one down, or get on Google. It's your best friend. You can find pictures, all sorts of things, so you know exactly how that belt is routed. One other thing you guys are going to have to deal with that I won't have to so much, I believe, to get to that tensioner, the factory air box and intake stuff is probably going to be in your way a little bit to access that. Don't quote me on that. Like I said, mine's long gone, so I don't quite have that problem. I got a bit more room to access that tensioner down there. So just something to think about. If you guys seen my air intake video, you know how easy that is to pull on out of there. If not, go ahead and check that out. It's really nothing too difficult about it, guys. But that's what we're up against. So for all you guys that are curious, here's what's going back in the truck. Tried to stick with all genuine GM stuff, Delco products. Here's the belt that's going in. Part numbers for those of you guys that want them. Like I said, my truck is an 09 LMM Duramax motor. Parts may be universal for several of the Duramax motors. Here's your idler pulleys. Like I said, we got two of them here. There's your GM part number there. And we also got it there. And then here's the tensioner we're going with. It's a genuine GM product. Like I said, I paid a little bit more to go this route. I think everything combined here, the best deals I could find, it cost me about $208. I could have gone with some of the cheaper Chinese products from O'Reilly's, AutoZone. That kind of stuff around $133, I think is what they priced it out at. But to me, the extra money was worth spending to get what I know are to be quality products, and hopefully not have any sort of failures or have to do this more often than necessary. So real quick, I'll show you guys on the tensioner here, since it's much easier to film this one than it is in the truck there. If you've never done this before, usually I just use a long 1/2-inch ratchet, get a breaker bar, whatever you can. You got this hole right here. You're going to want to stick that right on in there, pry against it, and that's how you're going to pull the tension off of it so you can get the belt popped off. Usually I'll pop it off like the AC, the alternator, whatever's right up top there and easy and accessible, and then you can get some slack in the belt. So anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that real quick because I do not know how well that's going to be able to be filmed once I'm looking down on it in that tight little spot up there. So I know not all the Duramax motors have it, but as you guys can see, I get this goofy plastic shrouding around here that's right in the way. I'm not going to pull it out or anything crazy like that. I'm just going to loosen it up a little bit so you can get some play. You got a bolt right up here, 13 millimeter. Right in here, we're going to pull that one out. And then, if you want, you've got one, I don't know if you can see it or not, way down there. You just loosen those up a little bit, and you can get enough flex in this thing to get your tools in there and kind of finagle it around where you need it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get that loosened up, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that. I got my bar wedged down in there, and this is, like I said, why the intake may be in your way. Just get some pressure on that, get enough tension off of it there that you can loosen it up and get the belt, you know, right off the AC pump there or something. Release tension on the tensioner. You know, we've got all sorts of slack and slop in our belt there. Alright, so as you guys can see, once we get the tension off, we can get the belt pulled loose. We got all that slack in the belt, we can pretty much figure out a way to finagle the belt out. And then we'll work on getting the tensioner and the idlers out. You can kind of see the nuts on those guys, or the bolts, I mean, bolt heads. There's the one for the tensioner right there. They're 14 millimeters. Really not sure if a wrench or socket and ratchet is going to be best yet to dig those out. So we'll figure out what works best for us due to room constraints. There's the one on the idlers right there. Alright guys, I got my 14 millimeter on my 3/8 long handled flexible ratchet down there on the tensioner. Before I get ready to break that loose, one thing I wanted to point out real quick, you can kind of see that little bolt way down there. That's the one that holds that plastic piece of the fan shroud on here that's all up in the way. I really didn't want to have to pull that thing all the way out, just because I feel like it would be an absolute nightmare to get back in, since you can hardly get your tiny arm down there and you can't see anything once you do. I didn't want to fight it all the way in, so I just got it loose. Then just loosening that one up and pulling this top one out here gave me more than enough room to flex that thing around and be able to get a ratchet in there. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys real quick, just in case you try tackling this on your own. Yeah, there we go. Like I said, we'll finish getting that bolt out of there, and then we'll get the tensioner pulled out. Well, there's our tensioner. As you guys can see, you got little lobes here on the back, so that thing pretty much self-aligns, so you know right where to put the other one up. It looks just like it, so it's hard to goof that up. Now, since it gives me a little bit more room, we're going to leave the new one out until I get those idlers pulled out. Just going to do a quick comparison, guys. Here's the new one until it's nice and stiff. Doesn't really even want to spin on its own. Here's the one we pulled out. It's definitely a little more worn. I don't feel any excess slop or real play in it or anything like that. I don't know if it was necessarily bad or what was causing the issue, but it is definitely got a few miles on it. So now that I got that tensioner out of the way, I got a tad more room. Take your time, just be patient, guys. You can finagle the belt out of there. You got to turn it sideways in a few spots to squeeze it through, but we got it out. I find it easiest to pull it out from the top, but to start by putting it in around the crank from the bottom. So we'll worry about that step when we get to it. Like I said, I don't know if you guys can see very well. This belt really doesn't look too bad. Yeah, surely this has been replaced at some point in time, but I have no idea what brand or anything it is. I don't see any markings on it. A couple little numbers you can hardly make out. So yeah, anyway, it's getting swapped out. Now, one quick tip, guys, I always like to do before you get going tearing things apart and get too in depth to it, as soon as you can get that thing out, just double check and make sure it looks like you got the correct belt. Don't think we got any problems here. Everything looks like it'll be alright. So that is the correct part number for the belt, if you want to go with the Delco. So now that we got all that crud out of the way, we're going to go ahead and see if we can get this top idler off. little bit snug. Now she's loose. Real quick, since I get the camera here, I'll point this out. There is a better shot of the lower idler. You can see right there where the tensioner mounts, and that's exactly why we're gonna wait and get that back in. We take everything up from the top down and put it back from the downward side up towards the top, just because we can access that so much easier with that tensioner out of the way. Alright, now we got both the tensioners out of the way, everything's gone. Now we can work on putting all the new stuff back in. Alright, so out with the old, in with the new, guys. Like I said, I really didn't see anything that had any substantial issues or problems that I pulled out of here. Sometimes, you know, these are making all sorts of noise, they're real stiff, you can't turn them, or see a real obvious problem. I have a very strong feeling this truck had a very cheap belt swap at some point in time, so hopefully that's the issue, and you know, not the fan or something else. So anyway, let's get it back together. We'll fire it up and find out. Here we are working on getting that bottom idler back in. Like I said, it's pretty much just reverse the way we pull it out. We'll get this one in, and we'll work on getting the top idler back in here. Sorry guys, it's tough to do with one hand and film and everything else. Okay, so both those are in. We'll get them tightened down, and we'll go ahead and get the tensioner in, and then we'll have the exciting task of trying to wrestle that belt back in place. So like I said, when it comes to tensioner, guys, you got one tab that's wider than the other. You got corresponding spots right there on the bracket. Line it up, get your bolt started. Pretty well idiot proof. Alright, there's all the new parts. Get your two pulleys, the tensioner. I'll get that tightened down, and instead we'll start wrestling that belt from the bottom up. Here comes the fun part, guys. So this is going to be near impossible to film. Do the best I can. Like I said, I'm going to get underneath the truck. You start from getting around the crank, and then you kind of got to turn the belt sideways at an angle to squeeze it in front of the crank and between that plastic fan shroud portion thing that we've been fighting the whole thing. Gotta tell you, this job would be an absolute breeze if that silly thing weren't in the way. So anyway, I'll get that in there, then we'll get up top there and start wrestling around the other components. I may be able to film that a little easier. Just to show you guys here. So there's your crank. There's where we got to wrestle it up there first, and I can't even get the camera in there to get a very good angle of how tight it is between that and that plastic shroud there. I mean, you can sort of see it there. So, wish me luck. Well guys, here we are. I stand corrected. Hopefully I didn't freak you guys out. That thing slipped right in there. That was a piece of cake. I'm not even gonna lie. So I just reached down in there after we got around the crank. You pull it right up through the top here, and now we'll just start working it back around all of our accessory components. Sorry, I'm gonna need two hands for this, but yeah, just like it came off. Like I said, I just drew myself a silly little diagram. I think my 3-year-old could have done a better job, but so there's pictures all over the internet. I just didn't want to take the time to Google it real quick. It'll do the job. So let me get that wrestle on, guys, and we'll get the tension back on it. All right, guys, you can see we got the belt all around, all through all the accessories. I usually leave one of these top accessories here, either your alternator or the AC pump, accessible. That way when you pry the tensioner off, you can just get enough tension off the tensioner and then slip it on one of these components. It's easier to reach than anything else. So we'll go ahead and get that on there. Then we'll go through and we're going to double check, and we're just going to make sure nothing's twisted, everything's properly aligned from every possible angle we can look at it before we fire it up. Alright guys, here she is. Nice and new, tight, strung just like she's supposed to be. Word of caution, you know, be prepared. Anytime you replace one of these belts, it's always going to be a tad tougher to put that new one on nice and tight. It hasn't been stretched out at all yet than it is to pull that old one off. So give yourself all the room you can on the tensioner, because you're going to pretty much need full swing of that thing to get all the tension off of it you can, to get every little bit you can to get that belt stretched on. So like I said, I'm going to double check it real quick and then we'll fire it up. That's music to my ears. That is nice and quiet. I don't hear the belt whatsoever. So exactly what the problem was, I can't completely say. But like I said, I have a very strong suspicion that was just a cheap belt. Oh, thank God that's gone. Anyway, hope some of you guys find this helpful. Guys, it literally took me like less than an hour to do. I have no idea what a shop would charge to do that. It's got a couple $100 for the top end part versus the cheap Chinese stuff. But anyway, hopefully you guys find this video helpful. Appreciate the support. Thanks again. Stay tuned for more, guys. As always, see you next time.